Give me only 15 minutes and I'm gonna completely change your finances, or should I say, change your perspective as far as the finances are concerned. This information was shared with me sometimes back, and I'm here to share with you. Probably, I believe this is a message for somebody who is watching this video. First, let me start by saying thank you for deciding to click on this video. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for always coming back to watch my videos. This is Good Joseph. In case you're watching me for the first time, go ahead and hit the like button. Make sure that you subscribe so that you'll be notified whenever I upload a new good business. Let's go. Or rather, new good video. Wow, my goodness. I think everything is business. Let's get on the business now. First thing that you're supposed to understand, finances. Well, when we talk about finances, in simple terms, we are talking about money. Now, let's define what is money. Money is a reward. Are we together? Money is a reward. And where do you get this reward? You get this reward after solving someone's problem. Okay, after solving someone's problem. For example, let's say you would like to get my services on how to invest. You get this number. By the way, this is my actual number. And you call me, I take you through and I charge you. So first of all, it's not about me charging, it's about me solving your problem. Then you give me the reward, which is the money. It's a medium of transaction. So money is a reward given after solving someone's problem. Even if you are employed as a teacher, as a who, you are solving the government's problem, because government would like to educate the children and they need someone to teach. Whatever you do, you are solving someone's problem, and you're trading three things if you're employed. And if you're in business, the same case. It's a what? It is a reward. Now, there is one thing I will tell you. Here, there is you, and here, there is a rewarder. I don't know whether that name exists. Let's use it, yeah? Rewarder, or the giver, or whatever you're going to call it, the one who is giving you the money. Now, you're interested with the money. They are interested with their problem being solved. Isn't it? Are we together? Let's say, for example, this is Good Joseph and this is John. John calls Good Joseph for Good Joseph services on how to invest. And then Good Joseph he charges John 10,000, for example. I'm using random numbers. Now, what happens? John is interested on knowing how he can invest his 1 million. Are we together? That is the interest. You are interested with the 10K. But the point is, we must meet at a mutual ground. So once I solve this problem, I get the 10K and the John gets the solution. So the 10K ends up in my account. Are we together? Now, what happens when the 10K gets in my account? John doesn't care whether I'll be able to manage that money, whether I will be able to invest and all those kind of things. Now, what happens the moment now I own this money, or should I say, quote unquote, own this money, it is not all mine. I, Joseph, I pay Wi-Fi. I, Joseph, I pay what we call the editors, okay, those who edit my videos. I, Joseph, I have to pay where I have this home or this office or whatever the place, so the rent must be involved. I, Joseph, I have to pay. All these are individuals that I have to pay them. Now, when I pay this money to all these people, for me to be in existence, see, I have to have Wi-Fi for me to exist in as far as this business is concerned, or this whatever thing is concerned. I have to have the editors, I have to have the rent, I have to have food, I have to dress. Of course, I can't make these videos naked, isn't it? I have to buy all this equipment, this lighting, this whatever the thing, this pen, okay? Now, when I get this money, are we together? What happens is that this is now all these expenses that I'm having here, these are called, how can I say this? Money is divided into two, or the expenses are divided into two. You can spend your money for the purposes of what? Just surviving. Are we together? These are just called survival ways. You're just making sure that you're paying things that make you exist. They don't grow you. If I pay my rent, I'm not growing. If I buy a very expensive shoe, I'm not growing. Are we together? Those are just sustainables. Are we together? They just sustain me. They are sustainables. Okay? We don't grow with the sustainables. What we do, I have to make sure that what I got from John and others, I don't consume all that paying other people. I have to make sure that there is another money that goes towards development. Are we together? Now, people confuse buying a carpet, buying a very expensive couch, buying a car, buying some things that makes you happy. You actually meet what we call emotional security. There are two types of securities when it comes to money. We have what we call the emotional security, emotional security, which is very important anyway. See, this is when you buy a land and build yourself a home, you buy yourself a very nice car, you buy a very nice and expensive shirt, you buy a very expensive watch and whatever. That is actually fulfilling what we call the emotional security, which is okay. But now people overspend towards the emotional security. They forget another security, what we call the financial security. Are we together? And by the way, the moment you focus on purchasing, or the moment you focus on financing your financial security, if that name exists, it is boring, it is not entertaining. For example, I'm going to give you two examples here. Someone takes the money and go buys a parcel of land and builds his own home where to live. That comes with the emotional security. As a man, probably if you're married, you'll be like, you know what? My family is safe and secured. They have a place where they can play. You see your kids in the morning playing and riding a bikes and playing football there and what have you, just having fun. It gives you that sense of satisfaction. Nobody is asking you for the rent. Are we together? That is an emotional security. You feel like, oh my goodness, I'm so satisfied. You're so okay. You feel emotionally you're secured, isn't it? And then somebody else takes the same money and decides to invest that money so that to get the cash flow out of that money. That guy, he is financially secured. He'll be like, you know what, even if I don't go to work, that money is generating me income. Let's use the simple examples. Let's say both of this guy use 10 million to buy land and build a home. The other guy uses the same 10 million and goes and invests this money to generate cash flow. Okay, and let's say the cash flow that is generated, let's say approximately he's getting 100k out of the money. This guy is getting zero at the end of the month because a home does not generate any income. Are we together? So this guy is emotionally satisfied, though he's getting zero in terms of cash flow. This guy is financially satisfied and he's getting 100k. He can use fraction of this towards paying the rent and what have you. So the guy be like, well, let's call this guy is Kevin and this is Dan. So what happens is that Dan feels secure to be like, I'm not like Kevin, I don't have to work. Because this guy has to work. Because you have to eat, you have to do all those things. Now, this Dan doesn't have to work, for example. Let's say he earns 100k from unemployment and he's making another 100k from a passive income. He can decide not to show up. Let's say they work from the same company. This guy can decide to just go home and relax because he has an equivalent of what he's making from employment from the cash flow. Now, this guy is financially secured. And this guy is emotionally secured. Now, whenever it comes to cash, what you're supposed to do, these are two important baskets that you have to fulfill. And what I always tell people, before you rush into spending your money towards a comfort, always ensure that you're not exhausting the basket on the financial security. I have ever handled people who have already have a home and they are in stress. Excuse me. Because there is a life beyond building a home. There is a life beyond building a house or owning a home or something like that. Now, this is where we were talking about. The moment you use money for these, what do you call them, the sustainables, you ought to have a money that is meant for development, for your growth, for your movement from one. And by the way, don't confuse growth and movement. Okay? What happens is that to move from one level to the other in terms of, hey, guess what? Changing the location in terms of I want to buy a piece of land, I want to build some rentals somewhere, I want to invest somewhere, I want to improve the skills that I have. That is improving yourself. Now, that is what we call development. So the moment you get money, the moment you get paid, understand there are people behind your back that needs that money for your existence, for your sustainable, for you just to sustain yourself, to exist. By the way, for me to manage to come here and make this video, there is a lot of things behind the camera that you didn't see. Probably I took my breakfast, I had to brush my teeth, I washed my face, I had to make sure that I took a shower. All that means money. Make sure that this pen is working. I did put some ink there, the board is okay. Make sure that, my microphone is working, my camera, my lights, all that means money. That is to just sustain me so that I can be able to talk, make these videos, and that way be able to generate some cash so that I can use that cash to sustain all these things that are behind the camera so that I can also move and grow from one level to the other because I am not yet there where I would like to be. There's a reality and there's a fact. Would like to move from one level to the other level to the other level. And even that movement, that growth requires some cash. And how do you do that? It is understanding your money, is understanding your cash, knows what comes in, what gets out, what needs to be where, and what are your goals. Quantify your goals, count the cost, and pay the price. That way, you understand. By the way, let me tell you one secret. The moment you have a goal and a dream, always quantify your goal. Always make sure that you understand how much is your goal. Goals are not enough. I mean, are not the same. For example, you can have, say, Kevin and Dan. These are two individuals who have a goal. This guy, let's say they earn 100K, both of them. And this guy, his aim is to make sure that he save at least, let's say, 800,000 at the end of the year. This guy target is to save, let's say, 400,000 at the end of the year. Okay, so this guy has a big mountain to climb, isn't it? A lot of sacrifice needs to be done here. Are we together? And I'm assuming they're all married and they have 2 kids, meaning probably they live the same neighborhood and what have you. So it means that this guy has to sacrifice a lot based on this. It all depends. Sometimes I see people trying to see what others are doing and you copy them. No, come on, you don't know their goal. What happens? Each and everyone have their own goal. So it is good whenever you use your money, make sure that you quantify your goal. How much is my goal? How much do I need to set aside so that I can be able to earn Y or X amount of money and such kind of a thing? So what are my takeaways on this particular video? Simple. Money comes in, understands. One thing, if you are employed, nobody will ever pay you surplus. Even these things they tell you, oh, they are hardship allowance, the housing allowance, and all those allowance, they already know you. Psychologically, they know the moment they give you all those allowances. They are not really, for example, you find somebody being given a house allowance of 28,000 in a month, but the guy decides to live in a 100K house. What if you were just to live based on what? But they know you'll never live by this. You know, even if you're a CEO, what they do, they give you that money enough to live you in that particular lifestyle. By the way, you know, these titles and accolades comes with expenses. You know, they tell you you're a doctor, you know, they tell you you're a CEO and whatever. So you end up making sure that that name CEO, that name doctor, that you finance it so that you look like a doctor when you're in the midst of people, you know, that you look like a CEO when you're in the midst of people. So they dictate. They don't have to necessarily tell you buy this, buy that. Psychologically or subconsciously, they dictate what car you're supposed to be driving, the neighborhood you should be living. Of course, all this comes with where you take your kids, who is your wife, how they dress, who they relate to, and all those kind of things. And that is exactly why you find there's something called the lifestyle inflation. You get an increment, you actually inflate your lifestyle. You just take your lifestyle to the different level, to a point whereby you never realize that there is a what? An increment on your salary. And that's why you become a stranger to your money, because you never understand. You compare yourself when you're earning 10K, now you want a million. You don't understand what happened. I had a 10K, sometimes I was complaining of the same problems. Now I'm making a million, I'm still complaining of the same problem. Now that is where we usually draw the line. As I finish up, let me just draw a little bit of light on the two things, the emotional security and the financial security. Now, when it comes to these two things, you're supposed to understand that it is good to make sure that you fulfill them at the same time. It may not be at the same time, but at least make sure that they are both important baskets, and do not sacrifice one basket for the sake of others. Because, you need also to be fulfilled emotionally and something like that. But I always tell people, always consult your brain, not your heart, when it comes to money decisions. This is Good Joseph. In case you need my services, that happens to be in my number. You can shoot me a call or text me on WhatsApp, and we can pick it up from there. Anyway, hope I've left something with you, and it's exactly 15 minutes, and I hope you've learned something out of that. This is Good Joseph, and at all the time, make sure that you subscribe, leave a comment on the comment section, and again, see you in the next one. And by the way, don't forget this. Let's make our pockets a better place, if not the world.